2025. I know there's a lot of predictions out there talking about anywhere from 250 upwards of $1 million by the end of 2025. I think there are a few things that could happen. Then my bullish level is going to literally bust through the roof. I think the biggest one that I don't hear a whole lot of people talk about, companies that have a strategic reserve are going to have an upper hand over every other company out there. I think there's a lot of companies that I personally don't want to start a strategic reserve. I think this is one of the evilest people on earth. Germany selling their Bitcoin, they just sold it to each other under the table because they're obviously worried about themselves personally being very wealthy and set up, but they are not worried about their country being wealthy or set up whatsoever. Putin coming out and saying you can't stop Bitcoin, I mean, you can't get much more base than that. So,
Mr. Alladan Flinn, thank you so much for joining me here today and being a playable character in a sea of non-playable characters. Alladan is the owner and founder of Bitcoin Trading Cards, which happens to be the most valuable, scarcest, collectible trading cards on the planet. And oh, by the way, is it truly the Trojan horse orange pill of all orange pills? Thank you, Alladan. Thank you for joining me here today, sir.
Hey, stoked to finally be on here with you and do this. We've been planning it for a while, so it's great to finally get it going.
We were joking, likewise, jokingly. We've had a few issues over time. Did a live one version of it a year ago. Well, I guess it was exactly a year ago. Wow. But really the first chance we've got to actually sit down and do this. And we've tried a couple times and just technical issues have come up. But we tend to get very red-pilled when we talk. So just warning for anyone that's listening. So if you want truth, stay here. If you don't, then you might want to go somewhere else. So that's the explicit advertising, the explicit advisory warning. So talk to me first about just Bitcoin in general, your thoughts on what's going on. Obviously, since the last, 6-8 weeks or whatever it's been since the election, things have been ripping. The Bitcoin price has been ripping. People coming out, you have the people coping on one end of the spectrum like crazy. And then you've got, Bitcoiners, saying, I told you so. It's just a wild time right now. Anytime you step on Twitter, just, kind of just look around you, what's going on. What's your take on everything and where are we going here into the new year?
Shit, I'd say this last 6 to 8 months have been insane, bro. Been in Bitcoin since 2016, and I figured at some point we would start running into situations like we have over 2024, but I did not expect it this soon. Trump is definitely shaking it up. Bitcoin Magazine, David Bailey, holy crap, what he's doing and how he jumped in the middle of the election and Trump and everything, bringing him to Nashville. Beyond exciting, to say the least. I am definitely not a fan of politics in any way, shape, or form, but I got to say, what's been happening is pretty flippin' amazing for Bitcoin, for the world. We need a shakeup, whether that shakeup is successful with all the things that, all the hopium out there that everyone's smoking. I'm not quite sure about that because, again, I'm pretty anti-trust on any government whatsoever. But what's happened so far is extremely beyond anything I would have ever believed. So I'm getting a little bit more more open to my optimism moving forward here. This is exponential for the entire world. I mean, you got France talking about putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. All over the world, we have so much movement. Putin coming out and saying you can't stop Bitcoin. I mean, you can't get much more base than that. So these different moments in Bitcoin history, all culminating into 2024 like a wildfire, has been just insane. And I'm really excited to see what happens in January. And I think we've got a hell of a road ahead of us, and it's happening a lot faster. I think we've been cruising at like 15 mile an hour, and you can see bicycles kind of keeping up with us as we're cruising down the road. But we just jumped into a sports car, and we're ripping pretty hard right now. So we'll see what happens here next.
Yeah, it's funny. I think it was American Hodl or somebody. I don't know if it was a tweet of his or if I was watching him talking somewhere, and he mentioned something to the effect of the last 10 years or 15 years were was great adoption, and it seems really insane. But whatever he was saying, it made me think of, yeah, the next 10 years will be even crazier. And that's kind of what he was alluding to, and where at least I was taking it. And I don't remember exactly which way he was taking it, but and where he was going with it. But my thought was this: the people that the diamond hands are about to hold on to Bitcoin are unlike anything we've ever seen. I mean, we had basically, just individuals, whales, just individual men and women holding Bitcoin basically over the last 15 years. And you have a lot of selling that comes with that, whether it's miners or just the individual people themselves, because all of a sudden they're getting very wealthy. And then they're like, hey, I'm going to sell a bunch of this because I want to live my life and I want to enjoy this wealth that I have. Going forward, though, like you just mentioned, the exponential part of this, that's what I just don't think other people understand, where I would love for you to kind of touch on this more and pull this thread more, because the people that are buying Bitcoin now, whether it's the institutions, the sovereign wealth funds, the nation states, they're price agnostic. That you don't get it back from them easily, and if you do, we're talking, many orders of magnitude higher. And I think that's the thing that we haven't seen anything yet, because these people are just buyers. These people aren't sellers. These countries, sovereign wealth funds, they're here to keep wealth. Basically, they're not here to make wealth and try to go and then sell it and dump it on the public. So I would love for you to pull on that thread more of the exponential growth or purchasing power here Bitcoin holders will see and feel over really the coming months. I think it'll happen a lot sooner than people realize in a way, but I'd love for you to kind of pull on that thread a little bit more and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, the price going as parabolic as everyone's talking about, it seems kind of crazy to me to think we would have that big of a movement that quickly. In 2025, I know there's a lot of predictions out there talking about anywhere from 250 upwards of $1 million by the end of 2025. I think there are a few things that could happen that would make me feel a lot more bullish on the price hitting that. I think the biggest one that I don't hear a whole lot of people talk about, which is kind of crazy, and maybe I'm just completely out of it and everyone is talking about it, but I haven't heard it. It's the master strategy that Michael Saylor's doing, where you're able to borrow on that Bitcoin, on that value of Bitcoin. So like you're talking about, you got sovereign wealth funds that are going to hodl that Bitcoin. There's no reason for them to sell it. They can print money at will. Why would they sell their Bitcoin? I think once we get to the point where people are able to borrow on their Bitcoin, there really doesn't become a reason to sell your Bitcoin at that point. I would think anyone that is going to sell their Bitcoin when you could just borrow on your Bitcoin, they are not going to be big players, period, anyway, because they don't understand the tax benefit of being able to borrow on your Bitcoin. But then if you think about that, as long as the banks, companies, whoever is lending on this Bitcoin are hodling that Bitcoin, which they better be, otherwise we have more of a BlockFi Celsius crap going on. But I think hopefully we've passed those stages, and as we move forward, we're going to get some serious players coming in that actually know what they're doing when it comes to this. So think about that part. If people are not needing to sell their Bitcoin in order to go and buy their house and enjoy the wealth that they've been able to accumulate with their Bitcoin, and they're able to borrow on it, and the banks that are holding that Bitcoin that they're lending on, selling pressure is nearly gone at that point. And this could make, this is where I see the price going to that $1 million really, really quick. So the moment I start seeing real options for that out there, and banks truly giving the option for people to be able to borrow on their Bitcoin instead of having to sell it, then my bullish level is going to literally bust through the roof. And I think these are the things that you get a lot of people that are not into Bitcoin, they don't quite understand. And it's a lot of confirmation bias they don't have from, sadly, their financial advisors. I've been around a lot of financial advisors that are not Bitcoiners, and I think there's a major ego problem going on with these people. It's probably, I mean, Peter Schiff, who the hell knows what his whole stick is on all of this. I personally think he's stacking in the background. I think this is just a play for him to get clickbait and become really popular. But I think if it's not, or even if it is, there's a really big part of that to me that he missed. Like, he had every opportunity to get in, and he's pissed off, and he's got a hell of an ego, and he doesn't want to admit that he was wrong. And I think a lot of these financial advisors are the same way. They don't want to admit they were wrong. I've got friends and family. It's the same thing. I think in the background, they're kicking themselves and wishing they would have got in. But if they get in now, then they're going to have to admit they were wrong. They're going to have to admit you were right. And that's a very difficult thing for a lot of people. We have a very brainwashed world, and ego is something that the news media, the social media, it's one of the biggest feeders on the individuals that I've ever seen, especially over the years, but it's getting worse and worse, where everyone's ego is just getting fed as much as possible. And that's making it really hard for newbies to want to jump in and just accept, okay, well, I didn't get in maybe when I could have. I've heard about this forever, and just drop your ego and get in Bitcoin, because I don't think there's many people, if they just give it even 5-10 minutes to use some critical thinking skills, they're going to figure it out. And they probably already have. So once that starts happening, then the world's going to get a hell of a lot better. We really just need a hell of an ego balance out there, if it's possible.
Yeah. And you know, I've talked a lot about this over time too, just raising your humility and lowering your ego. That is truly it's kind of the problem of humans, I guess, over time, in a way, right? I don't know if that ever goes away, unfortunately. Hopefully the ebbs and flows. Hopefully we as a society gain some more humility. So we shall see. We touched on something a minute ago, though. Do you think that, let me give you a bet in a way. Do you think that it's America that adopts Bitcoin first? And when I say adopt, I mean, maybe we'll call it strategic reserve, or maybe it's currency, or even removing capital gains taxes, things of that nature. Do you think it's America that does that first, or do you think it's the field? I'll give you the rest of the countries in the world. What are your thoughts because we mentioned Putin, some of these other really crazy developments that, like you said, the lady in the EU or France, kind of calling out the EU saying, what are we doing? Where do you see this country battle, I guess, if you will, the hash race, a global hash race?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the U.S. I think there's a lot of countries that are probably doing it in the background. I mean, we had Germany that just sold all the Bitcoin that they've accumulated for all those years. I honestly think that sell, and you can call me hella red pilled, and I'm off on a conspiracy on this one, but I could see that Bitcoin being sold to all the constituents, all the different politicians in Germany. Like, that didn't just go out on the open market. That was like an undersell, because obviously, with as stupid as, and I will say stupid, as these countries have been over the last few years, especially doing the most idiotic shit possible for their countries, they obviously don't give two shits whether their country is successful or not. And I could see, like, again, Germany selling their Bitcoin, they just sold it to each other under the table, because they're obviously worried about themselves personally being very wealthy and set up, but they are not worried about their country being wealthy or set up whatsoever. So I think the U.S. has the biggest balls out of them all, but I also, like, going really red pilled, I think there's a hell of a lot more going on behind the scenes than any of us would ever want to admit. And I think Trump is, so many of these things feel so planned to me. It's just hard to believe that, like, Kamala Harris, come on, like, Joe Biden, like, this, if it's not a joke, then holy shit, we are running on stupid right now. And like Brandon said, big warning, I'm going to be a little bit overly honest in this. I mean, idiocracy to the next level. Biden and Kamala are a perfect example of how incredibly stupid a human being can be. And the fact that we even considered that these people should be voted for as president of the United States, let alone in Congress or making any decisions whatsoever. Holy shit. So to me, it feels crazy that, like, people are not standing up going, wait a minute. This is just like, this is a movie set, right? This is all planned. This can't be real, because it's just too stupid to actually be real. So again, back to your question. I think the US definitely is the one that is going to be the first one to come out and say it. And I think there's a lot more planning going on behind the scenes than anyone wants to admit. And I'm just, I guess, glad that I'm in the US because that's where the start is going to be. I mean, we adopted the internet faster than anybody else. We brought Silicon Valley in and created the .com boom here in the United States. And Bitcoin is going to just completely crush the size of what that ever was. So for us not to do that, it'd be insane. But we are living in a little bit of an insane world right now. So who the hell knows?
Well, that is very true. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you always think of it in movie terms, where if you were watching a movie and everyone's so quick to point out, oh, you're hiding behind the chainsaws, the murder is right behind you. And it's like, it's so easy to see sometimes in a movie, like you can see exactly what's going on. If we showed you America for the last few decades, the last 100 years of central banking and what's going on, so many people will be able to see, like, what do you mean? Of course, the government's printing money, and it's like very easy to see. But when you're just living one day at a time, people they're the frog in the boiling pot. We're all the frog in the boiling pot. Like, no one can see what's actually happening behind the scenes. It's just absolutely fascinating. In saying that, we touched on a little bit of the sovereigns, the nation states, et cetera, but the corporations too. Obviously, Bitcoin trading cards does this at a very small level compared to what Michael Saylor is doing. I mean, most of us are very small level compared to what Saylor is doing, but you touched on Saylor, and I would love for you to give your thoughts on, like I said, what these businesses can be doing, which is most businesses not on a Bitcoin corporate treasury strategy, to what Bitcoin trading cards is doing at a small level, all the way up to what Saylor's doing, and how important that's going to be going forward as the rising tide, the purchasing power of Bitcoin continues to go up, really just fiat falling and Bitcoin capturing most of those gains, the black hole, as we say in Bitcoin. I would love for you to kind of pull on that thread a little bit more too, of what you're seeing in that world, whether, like I said, with Saylor, or with what you're doing with Bitcoin trading cards, what we're doing there, or what corporations that aren't in it yet could be doing.
So with Saylor, I mean, you can't get much more ballsy than Michael Saylor. And I absolutely love the guy. I give him all the credit in the world. We need more people like him. He's taking the exponential risk that no one else will do. He's seeing it way beforehand. I don't think there's going to be many companies or people in the world that are ever going to be able to compete with Michael Saylor. It's like Bitcoin being the first. I don't think there's going to be ever the chance of anything coming out and competing with Bitcoin. And I feel the same way about Michael Saylor. So other companies getting in, I maybe have a little bit of a different opinion than a lot of people. I mean, he just went and tried to get Microsoft to start doing the same thing. I was very, very personally thankful that Microsoft didn't jump in. I think it's one of the evilest people on earth, and maybe you have to take that out of the podcast because it'll get us demonetized or whatever. So you don't have to put that in there. Take his name out and. But I think there's a lot of companies that I personally don't want to start a strategic reserve. I would love it if McDonald's and all these fast food companies never do anything like that. We've talked about it many times personally together. The companies that have a strategic reserve are going to have an upper hand over every other company out there. And I would love to see companies that actually have the best purpose and benefit out for the human race to be doing this. And these are the companies that Michael Saylor and us Bitcoiners really need to get out and try and help get on board. Rumble just came out and said that they're starting to do it. Amazing. Like, that is the type of thing that needs to happen. Let's hope that Google and Alphabet Inc. Never starts a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And we have companies like Rumble that do, so that Rumble can outpace Alphabet Inc. and this crap if possible, because Rumble is the type of companies we need. And I would love to see YouTube and all these other companies eventually go away entirely. I'd love to see all of these fast food companies eventually go under, and we start having some real restaurants pop up. Whether it's fast food, you can make healthy food fast. They used to do it back in the day. It was not this seed oil, disgusting crap that they're feeding people. So it can be done. And so that's my thoughts on these companies coming in and starting strategic reserves. I am honestly praying that these evil companies that have been monopolizing horrible shit and pushing horrible narratives never start a strategic reserve. And if that means the price of Bitcoin doesn't go up as fast as most people want it to or hope it will, that's fine with me. I think Bitcoin is more of a signal to wake up the human race. That importance outweighs the number go up 1,000 times over to me. So if it takes longer for the price to go up, but we are getting more wholesome companies to adopt Bitcoin during that time, so that they have more of a chance to outpace these horrible companies that have been deteriorating the entire world for the last couple decades, that would be the most amazing thing ever. So maybe it's an unpopular opinion, but I'll die on that hill.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And unfortunately, a lot of times truth is unpopular. So I don't know how much more there is to say other than that. So it'll be interesting. Have you seen, so again, speaking of MicroStrategy and some of this, have you seen the recent stuff with people, again, freaking out, a lot of the altcoin crowd, scam coin crowd, saying, oh, look, the legal disclaimer on the BlackRock commercial that Saylor shared says it might not be 21 million forever. Or even Saylor, in his own words, even recently in the last couple of months, doing one of the interviews and saying, calling a bunch of, paranoid crypto, cypherpunks. Do you take any credence to those things, or you think that's just Saylor kind of playing, trying to ride the line and play, out of both sides of his mouth, I guess, if you will, but just more or less just trying to ride the line and play both sides?
I mean, I've been listening to Saylor since the beginning when he came out, and he's talked a lot about 2020 and what was happening then. He definitely has a very strong freedom aspect about him, unless he's full of shit, which I don't think he is. He's too articulated in the way that he's discussed these different topics. And I agree with so much of what he said. And to have someone as big as him coming out and saying those unpopular opinions and standing up for those opinions, I give the man massive credit. I mean, he's at the top of the echelon when it comes to these things. He's meeting with all of these top people. He has to be incredibly strategic about what he's doing. And the world is a really scary place. And I don't think a lot of people want to admit how scary it really is. That's like my optimism on how far we're going to be able to go with this, and the citadels and all these different things. The citadels are our communities. It's the people around you. It's your friends and family. If you really think that there's going to be one country somewhere where we're all going to go escape to, or one set of land, whether it's Texas or wherever, and they're just going to leave us alone, and we can all go there and be based and be free and have our sovereignty. I highly doubt it. I think 50, 100 years from now, we could evolve into that type of humanity. It's not going to happen that quick. Some of the biggest things for me is like stop the sex trafficking and stop all of this horrible, evil shit that's going on. Expose the Epstein list, expose the Diddy list, start pulling those things, and then I'll start getting a lot more optimistic. But while all of those things are still completely covered up, and all these companies and people are able to get away with the absolutely evil shit they're getting away with, my optimism is going to be balanced. It's going to be more based in reality than just crazy hopium. So I think on the Saylor point, the man is highly, highly intelligent. And I'm sure he's aware of all of these different things. So he has to be strategic in how he does things. And I would imagine he has a pretty balanced optimism as well. So is what he said triggering to a lot of people? I'm sure, but he has to play the game. And there really is So this one, I don't really like it that much, but it's the 3D chess that everyone talks about, whether that's true or not, or whatever the hell that is. I think all of us, in one way or another, if you've ever owned a business, if you've ever been married, if you have kids that you're trying to get to do something that they don't want to do, we're all playing this strategic 3D chess. I think there is definitely a level of that anyone highly intelligent and intuitive, that they have to play those things. And Michael Saylor is doing more for Bitcoin right now than, in my opinion, anyone else in the entire world. I give him massive credit, and I'm not gonna give him crap for some of those things that he says. I know it's for, as Bitcoiners, it goes a little bit beyond anything that we want to hear someone like Michael Saylor say. But again, this is a game, and we all have to play it the right way in order to be successful. We're trying to change the biggest thing on human earth, which is the money. Fix the money, fix the world. If anyone thinks that that is going to be done in a simple and easy way, you're just not paying attention.
So well said. So speaking of Saylor and BlackRock, and we were talking offline about just, and we even touched on it earlier, but just new people coming in the community because of, and really it's fear or greed. I mean, you had new people coming into the space because of the Canadian truckers or maybe the Dutch farmers, where there are negative events that cause fear, and it caused people to run to Bitcoin. But it also, obviously, the price increases. We're going to see a lot of new people. We're already seeing Google search traffic starting to increase again, finally, since 2021, and people starting to figure out what is Bitcoin, ask what is Bitcoin. And again, that brings people to this, this group of people that are all very individualistic by nature, at least in the last 15 years. The people tend to be, and they all have their own ways of thinking about things. And you have this this dynamic where people, you get a lot of people like, well, I don't like Bitcoiners, they're too toxic, or I don't, this and that or whatever. And then you have Saylor, to his biggest fear, which is a few years ago, I remember him saying, my biggest fear is not something technical or something about the network itself. It was really human psychology. It was, will people care about sound money 100 years from now? So Bitcoin being a human system, that the system itself could run for 1,000 years on its own. It could just be ticking away, TikTok next block. But if no one's using it, then it doesn't matter. And that's kind of where I was leading us into with some of these things that have kind of come up with Saylor recently, just, whether it's happenstance or not or whatever. But the psychology of people, because people get caught up, at least my belief, they get caught up in thinking BlackRock, oh, they're going to change the code and blah blah blah. It would just fork off, so like let's nip that in the bud right now. It would just fork off, and the people that have the ethos, the true Bitcoiner, 21 million, and have the ethos through and through, we would just fork off, and we would use the sound money, and BlackRock can go have fun with their government coin or whatever they're going to do, and no one would use it over time eventually. So that's not the problem. But the problem to me, and at least what Saylor was saying a number of years ago, and I know we've kind of talked about this over time, but pulling on this thread of, if people can be swayed, the MK Ultra programs, right? We're talking about these things that are out there that can mind control people and sway people into thinking, well, you know what? Maybe it is a good idea that we change this. Maybe it is a good idea to use this other coin for this other thing, or maybe it's good that we change the code of Bitcoin. And when you have these entities, these powers, to your point of governments or these large entities coming in, that is truly the psychological component, at least in my opinion, that is the biggest threat actually to Bitcoin, not the physical logistics of itself and the running the node and all these other things. It's the mind part. So I would love for you to kind of pull on this just for the people who are coming into Bitcoin too, because like I said, we have a lot of people coming into Bitcoin. There's a lot of differing opinions, even in the Bitcoin crowd. People can be toxic in all their own ways. So I'd love for you to start pulling on this thread of community and people coming together and for this new monetary system that we are all learning and growing in every day.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a touchy subject.
Teed you up.
Yeah. Unpopular opinion. That's, yeah.
If you're liking this interview, but you're just wondering, hey, you know what, Brandon, this is amazing stuff, and I get you have these guests on, and they're talking about how orange pilling the world is so great, and how Bitcoin is going to take over the world. How in the world do I educate my family and friends? How do I get people to understand what most people just don't care about, quite honestly? Bitcoin trading cards is the way to do that. When you open up these cards, you see the foil cards, you see the chase, you see the glossy cards, young, old, boy, girl, man, woman, it doesn't matter. People love these cards. It's awesome because they're super valuable, by the way. Amazing little side note. However, it Trojan horses them into the most important thing of the day. It's not politics. It's not all the things that we fight about. It's changing the money, fix the world. Bitcoin trading cards is the best way that we have going in order to do that, no matter who you are. You're going to love them. Playable Characters 10 for 10% off at checkout. Playable Characters 10 off at checkout, btc-tc.com. You're going to absolutely love these things. Now back to the show.
The toxic maximalism, I know there's a need for it in some ways. I get it. I've talked to so many Bitcoiners about this over time. But if you're a parent, if you've ever been a parent, you're a grandparent, you're a good uncle or a good aunt, you're not going to get anywhere being toxic with your children. You're not ever going to get them to jump in. I mean, you could be a drill sergeant and be up their ass, but most likely they're going to rebel in one way or another. So that toxicity is only going to get people so far. And yes, we need to stand incredibly strong to our values. But there is a way to articulate these things to people and actually get through to them. So I think there should definitely be a better balance of that. When I got into Bitcoin early on, there was way more of a balance with it. I come from the cannabis industry, and that's what I left when I found Bitcoin. And it was very similar. So Bitcoiners, hear me out. I grew up around a lot of small farmers, a lot of mom and pops out there that we all like work together in one way or another. It was sharing our seeds, sharing our strategies and different methods. And there's a new bug, and how do we compete against this new bug? And we would all work together on finding organic ways to fix these different problems we had. And these communities were amazing. And then it started going from what we had was called Prop 215, where it was legal, but it was really gray. Very similar to where we've been with Bitcoin up until right around 2024. It's been very gray. What are the actual legal answers out there? Well, there's not really any, but we're still operating. So that was the cannabis industry from like 1996 up until 2014. 2014, they finally passed a law in California, and then these laws started kind of going all over the place. Canada, it started really migrating with legalizing cannabis and actually coming out with guidelines for the first time. And when this started happening, well, now you have big money coming in. So very, very similar to what's going on with Bitcoin. And when the big money came in, a lot of these small farmers, which you could call them the plebs that have been stacking Bitcoin early on and got good prices and good entries, good people, amazing people. But when big money came in, it started changing so many different psychological points of people. And it was no longer mom and pops and friends and family working together and helping each other so that everyone could succeed. It started turning into a real competition between each other. And there was only going to be so many people in each area that were able to succeed because the market started becoming saturated. So the competition blew up like crazy, and you have friends that have worked together for decades that are now battling against each other. And they're all battling for that investor that's going to come in. And what farm is that investor going to pick up? Or what farm is that dispensary going to partner up with? And it really got incredibly scary and honestly disgusting, the way that everyone was turning on each other. What ended up happening to the cannabis industry? Mom and pops are gone. The market is destroyed, and the only people left are the big companies that came in and capitalized on the fact that it was really easy to get everyone to turn on each other really quick, and they didn't really even need to compete. They literally just stood back and let the mom and pops destroy each other, and then they came in and picked up the pieces at a massive discount. These farms that some of these people had for decades were picked up at a discount. If we're not careful, a lot of these similarities are going to happen in the Bitcoin space. All of these companies that have been around since everyone thought Bitcoin was a complete scam and there's no way, we all have to work together. If we turn into a massive competition with each other, it's going to be very similar. You're going to have the big companies with big money that can outdo us, whether it's like maybe we have big stacks of Bitcoin and we can compete when it comes to how much we can pay to produce an amazing product. But can we compete when it comes to the business strategies that these companies have that they've honed in for decades themselves? We don't have those strategies. Not all of us. I don't have those strategies. I have to be way more strategic in the way of putting out an amazing product and working with as many Bitcoiners as I can, Bitcoin companies. That's why we have the resource cards and all the things we do. The books that you see behind you and Brandon's, we are trying to collaborate with as many Bitcoiners as we can because we are only strong as a community if we work together. If we start competing with each other, and you can't come on my podcast because you were on this other guy's podcast or you're starting your own. No. We really have to be those mom and pops that were here in the beginning, that have the ethos, that have the heart, that have the conviction to put out the best quality content for the betterment of everybody. Because what's going to come in, if we don't, is going to be what we talked about in the beginning, which are these financial advisors that shit on Bitcoin the whole entire time. But then they've been doing this forever. They have the clients. They're going to come in and they're going to co-opt this thing. And the ethos of waking people up, which that is the point of Bitcoin. It's not just about number go up at all. It's about waking people up to truth, and decentralization is the only way you're going to find truth. So that's my biggest fear right now, is that if this toxicity continues and it pushes harder, I mean, I see cancel culture in the Bitcoin community. What the fuck is going on? No. We do not need cancel culture in the Bitcoin community. That is some far left crap where freedom of speech is not allowed. And if someone is saying something that you disagree with, then they should be canceled. No, they should be argued with. They should definitely have a conversation started. And if you want to go back and forth and throw some slurs, that's great. We're humans. Like, I have no problem with that. But trying to cancel someone out of the space because they're doing something you disagree with, that is the exact opposite, in my opinion, of what Bitcoin is about. Bitcoin is about freedom more than anything else, because without freedom, Bitcoin means nothing. Like, BlackRock can do whatever they want with Bitcoin at that point. The price can go wherever it wants to go. If we don't have the freedom that comes along with Bitcoin, it didn't do anything. So that is my fear of the toxicity and my pledge myself. But hopefully the scream to the Bitcoiners out there, everybody please work together. Find a way to work together. And if someone is doing something you disagree with, someone's buying shit coins or whatever it is, talk to them, have those conversations. But as long as they're not hurting anybody else, allow them their freedom, because that is the ultimate point. And a lot of people, they need to fall on their face. They need to experience the loss and watch these shit coins go to the moon and crumble right in front of their eyes in order for them to understand the difference. So telling them over and over, screaming at them, bring it back to the kids. You're not going to get anywhere screaming at your kids and being toxic with them to get them to listen to you, respect your opinion, and appreciate what you have to say. The only way you're going to get through to them is with compassion. And I know it's really difficult. I get it. I've been in the space a long time. When you see the degenning go to the level it is, and when people shill that crap, it really triggers me and pisses me off. So I'm not saying forgive necessarily and allow people to go out there and try to push shit coins and gambling on other people. If I've ever heard anybody say, hey, we should go to the casino, this is the best thing we could do, how much money do you have? Let's go to the casino and I mean, we could win. It's the stupidest shit ever. And I would definitely call someone out on it. And that's a lot of what shit coining is. But try to have the compassion when you're talking to friends and family, And that is, you have to break through their ego, and you're not going to break through their ego being an asshole. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Sorry, crazy rant.
No, it's so important. Again, we talk about this a lot, and it goes into even the marketing side of things, right? Marketing, the sales world, marketing world, Bitcoiners have a very hard time with it. And it's generally because a lot of people in this space are very principled, and we're idealistic. We're probably entrepreneurial minded. Those tend to be pretty idealistic people. They're building a future. So it's sometimes hard for us to, you try to balance with some realism and some pessimism even, but it's tough because you're not usually in that world. It's not how your mind works. So the marketing fiat world it's Bernays, it's propaganda. It's the book propaganda, which is birth of public relations. That is a very, very fiat thing. So Bitcoiners have a very hard time, and we go up against, unfortunately, we have truth on our side, and the fear and greed helps more people come in and see the truth ultimately, like you just mentioned. But in the interim, we have a very hard time. We have a very difficult time getting our message across against all the scams out there, whether it's fiat all the way to altcoins and other investments and fiat currencies and whatever it is. Government, politics, it's all shitcoins, right? So it's breaking through that noise is very difficult because those propaganda megaphones are endless. They print endlessly and they just spew into it endlessly. So, it's, you have to ride the line somehow. I mean, and in transitioning a little bit to Bitcoin trading cards here specifically, I mean, what's it been like for you even? I mean, fortunately the cards themselves, the flagship orange pill in a pack it's finite. It's just like Bitcoin. So it does a great job of marketing itself, which again, like the beauty of Bitcoin. But what has that been like for you just over the last, handful of years? I mean, really developing it for years and years now, just in your mind and developing Bitcoin trading cards, and the last 2 years being out now, Series 3 coming out here in the next, month or so. But I would love for you to kind of touch on this battle that Bitcoiners, where none of us are immune to this issue we ride into with this fiat, marketing sales world we still live in. We still live in two worlds. Bitcoiners live in two worlds, and that's what's very hard for the average person to understand.
Yeah, marketing any product in Bitcoin to Bitcoiners that isn't Bitcoin is one of the hardest things you could ever imagine if you are truly a Bitcoiner. So here I am with, I think, an amazing product. We can get into the different things that Bitcoin has about it that makes it so awesome. I float my own boat with this one of how cool these cards are, but it doesn't matter how cool the cards are. Trying to tell someone buy my cards over Bitcoin, being a hardcore Bitcoin maximalist, is really difficult because, you should be buying Bitcoin. You should be buying Bitcoin. You should be buying Bitcoin. So it's really difficult to be like, hey, buy my cards. Because what I want to tell everyone is, hey, buy Bitcoin.
And buy more.
And buy more. So I think finding that balance and figuring out that voice is really difficult. So, I mean, podcasts are probably some of the best ways to be able to do it, but getting the time and opportunity to get on these podcasts are really difficult. I think the main point for people to understand with these cards as a Bitcoiner, why would you buy these cards as a Bitcoiner versus just buying Bitcoin? One, let me put this one out there, disclaimer. If you don't have much Bitcoin, just buy Bitcoin. Don't buy these cards because the value of these cards could go up because the value of Bitcoin should definitely outpace these trading cards, and that is your true sovereignty. That's your true stack. But at the same time, if you can afford to buy a couple packs, you're time stamping your moments in history right now. I mean, everything we're talking about is pretty flippin' based, and we're on this mission unlike any other mission since the beginning of time. This is like the biggest battle ever. And these trading cards, I mean, this is a non-violent battle. So these trading cards are a really cool way to collect your piece of history right now as you are in this battle. And there's so many really cool timestamps of this battle right now. I mean, being able to collect the Michael Saylor card, or even something as cool as a Surfer Jim card. He may not be the biggest name in Bitcoin, but dude, Surfer Jim is badass. And if you were in Bitcoin early enough to get to meet Surfer Jim and know Surfer Jim, that's pretty flippin' sweet, in my opinion. So having that Surfer Jim card, even though maybe he doesn't become this big, huge, popular person, you're going to look back years later. Other people are going to look back and they're going to go, oh, Surfer Jim. Yeah, I met him. I got to hang out with him. And these are some really cool moments, even for yourself. So you never sell the card. No problem. This is something to keep for your kids, to keep for your grandchildren, and be able to talk about the time you were in Bitcoin when everyone else was saying it's a joke, it's a Ponzi scheme. So I think there's so many different parts about these cards that make them really cool in that way. And I think another really cool one too that a lot of people maybe don't consider is when you buy Bitcoin, put it in cold storage and hodl that shit. But the fun kind of goes away after a while. That's why Stack Chain was so fun, and people were into that because they were finding a fun way to play with your Bitcoin. This is a fun way to play with your Bitcoin without having to take your Bitcoin out of cold storage. You still get to play with these Bitcoin elements and the white paper card and the halving cards and all these different, really cool collectibles. So we've been in Bitcoin for a while, new to Bitcoin. You want to find ways to play with your Bitcoin and not just stack it, put it away, and be on potentially really toxic X or whatever social medias you're on. Our community has become like a family. It's amazing, and it's because they're having a lot of fun. And again, so many things we've talked about are really based call it pessimistic. You can call a lot of things out there. We're in a very scary time. So anything we can do to enjoy this time and these topics. I mean, we have the Federal Reserve card, which is like punchy and pushes the limits. There's not many things about the Federal Reserve that put a smile on my face. The Federal Reserve card makes me smile. It's hella cool. The government card makes me smile. Series 3 is Warriors versus Villains. We're exposing a lot of crazy things in here. These trading cards are definitely pushing the limit, unlike any other trading card project on Earth. And there's something really cool about that, to be able to talk about these topics with your friends and family, people that would normally be triggered like crazy, but you can hand them the Federal Reserve card, you can hand them a big pharma card, whatever the hell it might be, and you're going to be able to start that conversation or allow them to start the conversation, which is really the best way to start these with people, allowing them to open up these conversations. And the artwork on the cards and the little descriptions on the back are a great way to do that. So I do think that there are many reasons for people to have fun with these cards, collect these cards. A really big one for people, and I'll stop my rant, whether it's my company or any other company in Bitcoin that is trying to push towards Bitcoin adoption, we are all on this mission, and maybe you have way too much going on in life. Maybe you're just too busy with the kids, family, business, jobs, whatever it might be. How are you able to get in and contribute to the adoption of Bitcoin? And for me, I'm not talking about the adoption of BlackRock and Microsoft and these big companies that are going to make the price of Bitcoin go to the moon. I'm talking about the real important adoption of Bitcoin, which is friends and family, which are the everyday people that really, really need this. And there's so many people that not just need it, but deserve it. You have people down at food kitchens that have been working their ass off their whole life, and they take a tiny paycheck and they do this just to contribute a positive benefit towards the human race. Those are the kind of people, like, if you have time, if there's a way to go and even hook them up with 100,000 sats, especially when the price is down, these are the people that we need to be around. We need them to have some kind of wealth to continue doing what they're doing. And that goes right back to, I don't want Walmart and all these companies that are just doing negative things to adopt Bitcoin. I want it to be the positive companies. Well, it's the same with people. We want the positive people that are doing amazing things for their community, for other people, to be the ones to get into Bitcoin early. We want them to be the ones that can survive and be around and continue helping. So your contribution could literally just be supporting one of these companies by buying their product that maybe is the company that ends up really helping to orange pill and get the adoption out to these people that we really need in this world more than anything else.
You mentioned something too with people buying the cards and also trading the cards and the network effect of that, really, which is people learning to use Bitcoin. There's so many people that I've seen, I know you've seen in the community. There's obviously a big Telegram community that are Bitcoiners. They're traders, they're collectors, they're hobbyists. There's people that are brand new. They're in the group, obviously, and learning and have learned so much. But there's so many people learning to use Lightning for the first time, learning to use the Bitcoin network for the first time, the layer 1 and layer 2 for the first time. So I think that's another really cool aspect of the cards is learning it, young, old, people learning things for the first time. Because like you mentioned, most people, it gets boring after a while if you're just saving money at the end of the day. I mean, that's not like, for decades, no one ever, that was just something people did. They saved money, but it was never like a glamorous thing necessarily. And it was still hard to get a lot of people to do it. And a lot of people couldn't afford to do it in many ways. So because money turned into currencies, and then what people were saving, whatever they did have really was just eroding underneath them. So now we're in this world of people actually learning to save money and using the cards as a tool to gamify, because you just mentioned stack chain gamifying, buying Bitcoin. Well, this is that real aspect of it, of a real thing in teaching people how to use the network, which is so important. And I would love for you to touch on too, just some of the collaborations. We'll get into series 3 and some of the history of Bitcoin trading cards and how it came about and stuff like that, and some of your visions you've had over time here. But I would love for you to touch on even some of the collaborations you've had, whether it's, the gamifying experience that Bitcoin trading cards has created, the community, the people, the fun. If anyone's ever been to a Bitcoin conference and the Bitcoin trading cards booth is there, that's generally where a lot of people are. I mean, that's pretty factual at this point. I think that's safe to say. We've had, I think, whether it's Bitcoin Magazine or numerous people have come out and said, everyone's always at your guys' booth. So very grateful for that. And I know you are. But I would love for you to touch on just some of the collaborations with people and different companies we've had over time that have, again, just gamified this experience, but also this community that you talk of, which is building up this groundswell, this base of support that you need. Again, top down, converting the king is so important. This is where we get into, like, if you want to be on stage at a conference, you got to scale Bitcoin. And that's very important, getting sovereign wealth funds and all this stuff. That's all fun. And that's great for adoption. At the same time, we still need this educational element from the bottom up to make sure that that's lasting, that this education is lasting, that people do care about sound money 100 years from now. So I'd love for you to touch on a little bit of just the collaboration and the relationships we do have with other Bitcoin businesses out there.
So, I mean, the first thing I'll say on that, one of the things you said is how trading cards are one of the most popular currencies in the world, and they have been for at least 100 years, in the way that children, some of their first trades, some of their first sales and transactions they have made was on the playground using trading cards. So it really teaches that more than just about anything else out there, because most kids are not coming to school with dollar bills. They were coming to school with trading cards. And right now, trading cards are incredibly popular. And I take my kids to the park and I see other kids like literally trading cards and going back and forth. And the scarcity of those trading cards is truly what makes that trade worth it. I have out of 150 Pikachu versus your out of 250 Charizard, whatever it might be. You have to balance those trades and make it worth it and figure out why this one could be worth more than that one. The scarcity is usually always the reason why, but what are the different elements that come into those cards? It's a really fun way for kids to learn how to transact. And all the way back to sports cards in the 50s and 60s, even later, earlier. This has been a huge thing for a long time. So bring that into today and give that to adults. I think like the community aspect of this, where it's really been so fun. You really want to get into Bitcoin and enjoy yourself and stick around, meet other Bitcoiners. Well, how do I meet other Bitcoiners? There's Orange Pill app, which is great, but you're still trusting a random person on there. Maybe they paid for the app to be on there. And so there's a little bit of trust added because of that. But at the same time, this is financial advice, Never tell anyone how much Bitcoin you have. Be really careful to ever expose yourself in Bitcoin, whether it be to Bitcoiners or not. Keep yourself as private as you possibly can. So how do you make friends in Bitcoin and do that and be very, very safe? Meetups are great. They get you started meeting people and starting conversations, and you can be very successful with that. I started a meetup here with some really good friends of mine, and that worked out really well. But the trading cards are one of the coolest ways to do it, because you have to get, you eventually will get a transaction going through someone that you meet, another Bitcoiner. And there's no reason for me to give you Bitcoin and you to give me Bitcoin unless we're paying for a dinner back and forth or something like that. But with the trading cards, you're putting this added trust in there, and there is some enjoyment and excitement about it. So transacting between each other with these trading cards, like you were saying, how do you get people to actually use the network? We've had more people in the trading card group come out and say, I've never used Lightning before, never needed to. All I ever did was stack Bitcoin and put it into cold storage. But this guy had a card and I really, really wanted it. And he said, pay me on Lightning. So I had to learn how to use the Lightning network in order to pay him. And for the first time, I made a Bitcoin transaction. So there's so many cool elements about the cards that bring these things out. And if you're on the fence with Bitcoin trading cards, I mean, it's, even if you just buy a couple packs to make a few trades, to meet a few friends is great. It opens up DMs where you're chatting back and forth about the cards. There's been so many like amazing relationships created through these cards. If you come into our community and check out the conversations, like incredible communities, very like-minded people finding each other. And I think that's probably one of the coolest aspects of what these cards are able to do. So, I mean, there's my rant on that. Your other question,
the relationships with just other companies, other Bitcoin companies that we've worked with so far.
Okay, so on that, that's another kind of friendships that have been created with this. We've done quite a few of these collaborations, and there's so much that goes into creating these trading cards. So there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of time and energy and conversation spent to create these sets. I mean, even if it's not the collaboration with the actual company, we did BitBlock Boom, we did Spirit Satoshi, Tone Vase, Pacific Bitcoin. These are more of like business relationships, and we meet a few people in that company we become really close with. But when it comes to putting the people in there, that's an even funner collaboration. We did the Halving Edition whale packs where we put 21 different Bitcoin artists in there. That was great to be able to meet. I mean, mainly through DMs, but to get to have conversations with artists that I've been following for years that I highly respect and admire. That is really one of the coolest parts for me, is whether it's the people in the community that have become amazing friends, meeting you. The cards were the reason why me and you met, and we've become, in my opinion, lifelong friends. Like a brother, which I grew up with many, many people, and my friends group shrunk down massively over the years. Like I said, the cannabis industry, the way everything went, it just shrunk down, and I put all my focus into my family, and I had one or two close friends that I stuck with. And then getting into Bitcoin, I, like you and Murphy, I've met Asanoa, some people that I never thought that I would have friends quite the way that I do with you guys, like starting over and having brothers again. It's really amazing. So same with the companies. I think it's really important. I mean, it kind of just touches on so many things that I've said. We have to find these ways to work together and collaborate together and push. I mean, how many Bitcoin maximalists are there in the world that are on, I mean, it's all focused on the X, right? That's where most people are. That's maybe 1 million that are not, that are true Bitcoiners, maybe 1 million. So we don't, like, if there's over 7 billion people on Earth and there's only 1 million hardcore Bitcoin maximalists out there, we better work together. Why would we not want to be sharing our friends, sharing our customers, sharing our fans? That's not a whole lot of people. I mean, it's like percent of a percent of a percent. So if any company in Bitcoin thinks that they are going to be massively successful all on their own and trying to capture these different audiences and keep them all to themselves, you're crazy. The audience is not big enough. And the only way we're really going to reach the next audiences is if we work together. And a big reason for that is if new people come in and they see Bitcoiners battling against each other and cutting each other's throats in order to succeed, it's not something they're going to admire. It's not something that people are going to really want to get into. Oh, Bitcoin, I heard about it. I'm going to go check it out. They jump in and they see all the infighting and cancel culture and everything going on. Maybe this isn't for me. This is just more of the crap that I'm seeing all the time. So any collaboration we can do and afford to do and make it work, and at the very least, just open to the conversations, has been great. And I think again, that's the Citadel. The Citadel is the people. It's not a physical place. It's the people around you. And you need to stack friends, orange pill app, stack friends like you're stacking sats. That's the ultimate goal. And that's the ultimate success.
I love that. I absolutely love that. That's the rallying cry. And again, we talk about these conferences all the time too, but you mentioned the Citadel numerous times. I know Nolan Bowerley is working on something with a new show, I believe, geared around the Citadel or Citadels. And that's really this next epoch I feel like we're going into, or at least the next epoch or two, where there's enough Bitcoiners with enough wealth where these freedom cities, Citadels, all these things kind of start coming together. But, truthfully, survival situations, we're all in one. We're on Earth. We're all trying to survive, and community is the number one aspect of a survival situation. It's not gold or Bitcoin or water or anything like that. It's the people around you. So I love that you're touching on that. And that's why the ethos of Bitcoin trading cards is so important, and people collaborating, being together. In saying that, I would love for you to talk about the start, the genesis of Bitcoin trading cards, and the kind of couple years that led up to it, and why you created Bitcoin trading cards, aside from anything you haven't touched on here, obviously, in the last little bit, but and then walk us through series 1, series 2, and then series 3. So I'd love to kind of get into this now and talk about what we're about to embark on with series 3 of Orange Pill in the Pack, and really the whirlwind that it's been over the last couple of years here. Obviously, starting in the well, again, you can walk us through it, but starting probably in a bull market, really thinking about it, kind of planning, and then coming out in a bear market, and now we're kind of coming into a bull market again. So I'd love for you to kind of walk us through that timeline and lead us up to today.
So when I found Bitcoin in 2016, I grew up, again, on a farm. My dad's always been very red-pilled, talked to me about all kinds of subjects, probably way too early on. So I was extremely red-pilled in school, grade school, junior high. I was pretty much booted out of school to many points by the 7th grade. 8th grade, I was almost completely out, expelled the first time in 9th grade, homeschooled myself for a little bit because no other school would take me. Back to continuation. Like I was pushed around so much at a young age because of how red-pilled I was. But I always stood up and fought against back then, before Rage Against the Machines was a woke group of dipshits that they are now. It used to be pretty sweet back in the 90s, and I definitely raged against the machine. So I've always kind of had that fire in me to stand up against what I thought was wrong and corrupt, and whatever that meant, whatever risks that was, I would do that, not just for myself, but friends, family. It didn't matter if you were getting bullied on the playground and the bully was 3 times bigger than me, whether I got my ass kicked or not. My mouth was very big, as you can tell in this podcast. I can have a big mouth, and I had one at a young age as well. So I always thought it's worth standing up and taking a punch if you have to in order to stand up for what's right. So finding Bitcoin in 2016, everything went off because I already understood how corrupt everything was. And it was Tone Vase. It was Adam Meister. God, there was so many incredible Bitcoiners at that time. They were pretty flippin' based. A couple of the other names escaping me at the moment.
Probably
So
Giacomo.
Giacomo,
Yeah.
yep.
Yep.
A few of them that have been canceled
Andreas,
now at this
probably.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would cancel Andreas at this point. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's definitely changed dramatically since then. But I found Bitcoin and I was like, this is it. I always wanted to be a part of something that was going to have a positive impact on the world and push towards individual rights and freedoms. Because again, without that, nothing else matters. So I was hooked immediately. Completely left the cannabis industry right around that time. Moved my family for the first time myself, moving into the city, into the suburbs, which is really weird for me, taking that on. But I had a lot of extra time because normally I had so much work to do on the farm. This was way different for me. So lots of podcasts, lots of reading, just lots of time that I never really had before because I've just been an entrepreneur my entire life. So I took about a year and a half to just study. Never really bought much Bitcoin at that time because I was really flat broke. So it was dollar cost averaging a couple bucks here and a couple bucks there. Then I was, how do I work in Bitcoin? How do I become a part of this? Well, I'm not a coder. I'm definitely not that smart. I'm not a podcaster. I'm definitely way too mouthy and vocal for that. What is something that I can do in Bitcoin? I've always been an artist. I really wanted to find a way to do that, but I wanted to teach as many people about Bitcoin as I possibly could. Went out and did something, the Bitcoin Life Raft, where I would basically just, if someone could hire me and I would sit down and give them the Bitcoin basics, similar to what Ben Sessions and some of those guys were doing, but very, very basic. I was not trying to give financial advice in any way or walk them through all the technical stuff. It was really pushing them over the fence. So that they could go and start their own research. So I would give them a list basically of all the different books and podcasts and people that they should be paying attention to that was Bitcoin only. Because I've seen so many people getting wrecked with shitcoins that was my biggest thing, was just trying to teach them Bitcoin only. Whatever you do beyond that, it's your choice, but you need to understand the basics first. Otherwise, like, your chance of getting wrecked, even if you understand, is really high, but your chance of getting wrecked if you don't understand is like 99.9%. So that was working decently. And then the trading card idea was always in the back of my mind because I did that before in the cannabis industry. So the idea started kind of just accumulating over about a 3-year period. I met an incredible friend over it was 2019 was when I homeschooled my kids. Because I was just seeing so much of what was coming, what was going on. There was a couple articles I read about 900 CEOs and executives leaving their companies, which that right there was my biggest trigger. And I immediately told the wife, I said, we got to pull the kids out of school. Something is coming. There's no reason why all these guys all of a sudden, all at once, the end of 2019, pulled all their kids, or not their kids, pulled themselves out of the businesses they'd been running for so long. And then, well, it just so happened that early 2020, what happened? So, writing on the wall. At that point, it was really scary for me, seeing people driving in cars with masks on by themselves, seeing total idiocracy. I get it, be scared. It was definitely scary times for a lot of things. I've seen a lot of sick people. So, not doubting that at all, but at the same time, there was mass idiocracy happening across the board. Common sense was thrown out the window. That scared the living shit out of me. And it was time to push harder on this idea. Again, not about buy Bitcoin, number go up, but find Bitcoin, mind open up is the biggest one. So I pushed incredibly hard on the trading cards, put a lot of my life savings into it. The friend that I met early 2020, brought him in, became a co-founder with me more than anything, just to keep me on point. All these topics, all these things that we've been talking about. I mean, to manage all of those things and try to create these trading cards, it's the first Bitcoin trading cards. It's something we are trying to capture pop culture with. For anyone that doesn't know, I take this incredibly seriously. I think about every single move we are making with these cards in every way, from any person we put in the pack to any brand that goes in the pack to the descriptions, the art. Everything is thought out very, very deep. And we get people all the time that are, you should do all these different things. And well, eventually we'll try to do more, but it's really finite. Of what we do, and we don't want to water anything down. So we try to make the best decisions we can as we go to really create something that will stand the test of time, because it is pop culture that forms society. And trading cards have always been such a good part of pop culture. Why are they so important? Because they're capturing pop culture, whether it be sports or cartoons or games, movies. I mean, you name it, they're in trading cards. Trading cards are literally capturing pop culture in a tiny piece of paper. And what's on back is that little description of that moment in pop culture that everyone is so fired up about. So we take this incredibly serious, and to launch the first set, oh my God, I started losing a lot of hair right around that point, because I was incredibly scared of not doing it right. And I'll be totally honest, we did not create this to be a number go up, super highly collectible that's going to be worth a lot of money. We created this as a really fun and simple way to teach your friends and family about Bitcoin. And yeah, there needs to be some aspect of number go up, which trading cards definitely has that, because that's what gets people incentivized. If there's no incentive, good luck getting them to take the time. The incentive with these cards are they're fun, they're bright, they're colorful, they're educational. That'll get you a little ways, but they also are highly scarce, and they might be worth more than what you paid for the pack at some point. Okay, now that extra incentive is there. So I figured there would be a little bit of that, but I didn't expect it to take off quite the way it did, as fast as it did. No real marketing branding. It just took a life of its own immediately. So the first set was Orange Pill in a Pack. The name is exactly what we were trying to do. And because it went so quick, that's when I met you and Murphy, and brought on a few people of the team to help us out. And it was Miami, Bitcoin Miami was coming up, and we wanted to get Series 2 out, and that was Fudbusters. So Orange Pill in a Pack series is like call it the flagship of what we're doing. It's the most important set that we produce, only 21,000 packs once a year. So scarcity compared to the trading card market with anything else out there, there's no comparison. These are by far the scarcest trading card sets on earth. And they all have a theme. So the second one, Fudbusters, like we had a whole entire category that was busting the FUD. And when you're handing these out to friends and family, they have these common misconceptions, these common FUDs that are thrown against them all the time, only used by criminals. It's a Ponzi scheme. So many different things that people come up with. Yeah, bad for the environment. Crypto's better than Bitcoin, go for Ethereum and all that crap. So we came in and really just busted the FUD with some of these cards. So it's really cool because you get people to ask these questions. Us as Bitcoiners, we are very passionate. As you can tell with this podcast, then anyone's going to be able to listen to the whole thing with as long as we're going. We get passionate and we ramble and ramble and ramble. That is not the best thing when you're trying to teach somebody something, is the rambling. They will shut it down most of the time. So the trading cards are great because you don't have to ramble. You hand them that card. They're like, well, I heard the government was going to stop it. Well, you hand them the government can't stop Bitcoin card. So they work really well for that. And yeah, it's just kind of taken on a life of its own, of the community, the fun. This white box behind me is Genesis packs. Those are to a point non-collectible, even though they're honestly scarcer than most trading cards in the entire world. Even the sets that we created and we sell for a couple dollars a piece per pack are scarcer than 95% of any trading card ever printed, which is kind of crazy. Just shows you how scarce we really are. So we have given out tens of thousands of these packs to schools. They've been opened by children in the mountains of Peru. They've been opened in all over Mexico, East Asia. Like they are really just spreading Bitcoin knowledge everywhere with the art and everything really fun in there. And I was hoping those would go a little better in the way of really helping to spread Bitcoin knowledge. But I think they've done their part in a lot of ways. And they really like stocking stuffers, Christmas gifts, anything else. Please, if anyone can tell me anything you can buy for $5 that you can give a kid, a friend, anybody that has any fucking value to it nowadays, please, I'm all ears, because I don't think there's anything that someone can come to me and tell me for $5 what actually has that value, unless it's a pad of paper with a pen that they can go and create their own value with. These cards or these packs are a really great way of doing that. I get shilled all the time. I just got a coffee last night and they were like, okay, just fill out this before you pay. And I'm like, what is that? Oh, they want a tip. I'm like, you literally made me a cup of coffee and poured some milk in there and you want minimum 18% tip. Holy shit. And that's everywhere now. So I really like having packs of these cards with me, because I can be like, all right, well, here's a couple dollar tip and it's in a pack of trading cards, and it's up to you to take this tip and do something intelligent with it or not. Open that pack and read it. And if you don't, one of the sayings that I do kind of agree with, whether it sounds a little toxic or not, you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve. Someone hands you a pack of these trading cards, that is your opportunity right there to open up and start to learn. If you don't open it up and you throw it away because you didn't get your 18% tip for pouring a cup of coffee, well, you'll get Bitcoin when you deserve it. So I do think there are so many different aspects of these cards that work really, really well. And for anyone that maybe hasn't been out there on the front lines, just to understand how early we are to Bitcoin, we open up our booth at different trading card conferences, because the ultimate goal is to get this out to the general public. And we have people coming up to our booth and asking us, when did Bitcoin start making trading cards? And are you the CEO of Bitcoin? And many questions about the Bitcoin company itself. So yes, we are extremely early, and people are very apprehensive of wanting to approach Bitcoin in any way, shape, or form. And it is really going to take massive simplicity and a very fun approach to the majority of people in order to get them to give it a chance. And I do think it is the everyday person that needs Bitcoin the most, and not for the number go up, for the mind awake. I'll say that over and over, because it really is the most important part.
So well said. Yeah, it truly is. Like you said, understand Bitcoin, mind opens up. It's wow. Touch on Series 3. So you talked about Series 1, Series 2, Fudbusters in Miami in 2023. And then now we have Christmas, New Year, 2024, 2025 here. Series 3, Warriors versus Villains is coming out. So please talk about this a tiny bit.
If you want to go based on your friends and family, or just go based on yourself, Series 3 Warriors versus Villains is definitely that set. It is extremely based. We are pushing the envelope with the topics in these cards. Had a few kind of pushbacks on some of these topics that we're bringing up, because we're definitely going to the extreme. Now, when it comes to quality of trading cards, even if you're not a trading card collector, I guarantee you we're going to blow your mind. If you get any packs of these cards, one pack of these cards, and we're going to blow your mind. We have pushed the envelope harder than any other trading card company out there. What are the options that we have available to us to create the most incredible, scarce, highly detailed, push the envelope on every aspect we can? So they came up with all these options, and we said, okay, let's use every one of them. And even the printer was like, what do you mean you use every one of them? Well, let's use every one of them. We want these cards. Again, it goes back to what I was just saying about being in a trading card show and getting these people to pay attention to Bitcoin. You really got to blow their mind in order to get them to take that that step. So what we have set with these cards, we've had this evolution of quality in the cards. Not that the first quality wasn't good. I mean, the Series 1 needed to be as basic as it was, exactly the way it was, in order for it to be as nostalgic as it will be in the future, as it already is right now. Everything happened for a reason with each of these sets. We've learned a lot. We've made some different mistakes trying to figure out how to exactly do everything. None of those mistakes were bad in the way of the cards to a point. They were just mistakes in the way of we could have done this better. But the quality of what we've done is still amazing. But each of those things we've learned along the way has brought us to Series 3. And Series 3 is really going to be a mind blower, not just for people that have already collected these cards, anyone new collecting these cards. You'll have to wear your blue light glasses to wear these. not that we're putting blue light in them, but yeah, they'll shine really, really bright. And then some of the things we're doing along the lines of Bitcoin is normally there's only a couple of trading card companies in the world that have put basically a fingerprint stamp on the trading cards in order for other people to not be able to knock them off. And that's been a big question by Bitcoiners because it's so important to make sure that things can't be reproduced and they are as safe and scarce and finite as possible. So not just the quality of the print and the different levels we've went to. This cannot be printed on a regular printer. So this is just a AP of the card so that we can go back and forth with the printer to get an idea of the different effects we want to do. But right here, this little orange pill, there'll be one of these on the back of every single chase card that we create. A chase card is a card that has a number stamp on the back. So because this is an AP, there is no number stamp because those will only be on the actual cards come in the packs. But you'll have this orange pill up here that will have this fingerprint that cannot be reproduced. And that fingerprint stamp will sit in a vault at the printer's complex. They have security like a casino. So no one is getting into that vault to get that stamp. That is as safe gets. And the cost of doing something like that is extremely high. And this is why other trading card companies do not do this, because they're trying to make as much profit and gains as they possibly can, where we are trying to, again, produce the most ridiculously amazing trading cards ever produced. The gains will come later, like with Bitcoin. Get your time preference right and everything will start to work out. So for us, it's not about making big profits or gains right now at all. It's about us really showing the proof of work that sets an example and hopefully a little bit of a table for some of these other trading card companies to pay attention to, other Bitcoin companies, any company, to understand that quality is going to outpace everything in the end. And that's exactly what we are trying to do with these cards. Not trying to, that's what we're doing with these cards. We are pushing the limits as much as possible with everything we can to really put out something that when people see this, they go, the proof of work is here in every way. These are things that have been dropped over time. You see the buildings now that are being built. Saifedean talked about it in the Bitcoin Standard. The craftsmanship is a thing of the past. We are definitely bringing it back with these trading cards in every way, shape, and form. Oh, you're muted.
Yep. Must have hit mute. Good call. I'll have to pop that out. What is the mission of the company, really from the genesis? And we touched on it a little bit, but I would love for you to touch on that. But also, where do you see Bitcoin trading cards in the future as it fits into Bitcoin itself scaling and, has a fiat price right now, but eventually it probably won't. And I mean that from the sense of, you talked about time stamping. I think that's a very important thing. For those that have seen the generational wealth video by Tomer Strolight, I think it's a phenomenal video. And in that, it talks about, hyper Bitcoinized world, when there is no more fiat and it's just a Bitcoin standard that we're on, people are getting back to the things that are important. a la art, regenerative farming, eating the right things, natural things, putting the right things in our body, putting the right things into our mind, et cetera, et cetera. So for those that haven't seen that, go check that out. But also, as it pertains to art and Bitcoin trading cards, where do you see this maturing as the Bitcoin standard unfolds in the future years?
I really hope that this is a project that can really breach into the hobby, the trading card industry. Um, Sports cards, for example, we put these athletes on such a high pedestal. I mean, they're okay. They're really good at sports. They're really good at sports. But what else have they done? What have they done to contribute towards humanity other than being really good at putting a ball in a hole somewhere? I give them mad props. I love sports. I played it growing up. I've got a lot of admiration for people that can play sports really well, but to the point of these people should be put on a pedestal over someone like Hayek. No, we don't even talk about Hayek. We don't even talk about people that really push the benefit towards humanity. What is sports really benefiting other than it gives us something to enjoy, a pastime, a part of pop culture? That's great. I collect them. I'm not saying you shouldn't collect them, but these cards, we're capturing moments in time and people in these cards that really, like, these are the people that should be admired. Kill your heroes. So I'm definitely, we do not have anything in our cards that says heroes. We call them warriors, whether it's Bitcoin warriors or freedom fighters. Be really careful of putting anyone on a pedestal to the point of they're a hero. But there are a lot of people that are amazing warriors. And there are many things to be admired about someone that is willing to stand up for more than just themselves. These are the type of people we try and collaborate with and put in the packs. So I think over time, that is something that, again, it's the great awakening. That's what Bitcoin is. These are the people that are trying to wake up the world. Alex Gladstein in Series 2 was amazing. We put some incredible people in Series 1. So that, I think, is a really big part of what could make these cards incredibly popular. The education behind the cards, I think, are huge. What are you learning when you're collecting Pokemon cards? Really? If you're playing the game, that's great. I think, again, that comes back to that community aspect. You're meeting friends and making relationships, playing the game. I think that's awesome. The trading I see going on at these different trading card conventions, I think, is really cool. There's something about that. But what is the ultimate benefit beyond number go up, where people are going around trading these cards and trying to make a profit on them? Bitcoin trading cards, we are adding so much more to that in the way of the education, and hopefully bringing some people towards some of these people that will have the potential to wake them up like they did for me. So I think that will be a big breach into hopefully the trading card market. But the cool thing about Bitcoin trading cards is Bitcoin is worldwide. Bitcoin is inclusive to everybody in the entire world. So that with as scarce as we print these cards, you imagine there's 21,000 packs we do once a year. If we get to the point where we have 1 million people buying and collecting these trading cards, the scarcity it's like Bitcoin. There's never going to be a point where everyone in the world is going to be able to own one Bitcoin. There'll never be a point where everyone in the world is going to be able to own 1/10 of a Bitcoin. Break up 21 million Bitcoin over nearly 8 billion people on Earth. There's very little bits left for everybody. The scarcity aspect of the trading cards are the number one thing that people need to understand that maybe are not into Bitcoin yet. And excuse me. And why I think so many people buy shit coins and NFTs and all the rest of that crap is they haven't learned what scarcity is. You have to understand what scarcity is in order to understand the value of your money and why a currency is potentially worthless, because if they can print it on demand and there is no capped supply, then where is the scarcity? So with our trading cards, having a capped supply, unlike almost any other trading cards in the world, It really is that first touch point for new people. And again, a reason why Bitcoiners should support us. If you don't want to buy the cards, it's totally fine, but throw us a retweet, share us with your friends and family that are into trading cards, because most people do not understand the concept of scarcity. And the number one thing our cards teach more than anything, even if you never read the back of the card, they're going to teach scarcity. People are going to ask why we are honest and transparent about how many cards we print, because no one else in the trading card industry is doing that. And that question needs to be brought up the same way that question needs to be brought up to the government and the Federal Reserve. Why is there no capped supply on this? Who gives you the right to print unlimited amounts of this and control the amount of currency that's being printed that we are paying taxes on? And that question needs to be brought up. So again, Bitcoin is the great awakening. And these trading cards are an amazing first touch point for people to learn about that. And I think like that's one of the terms that I really like using is Bitcoin trading cards being a first touch point to people that are maybe really afraid of a wallet, maybe afraid of getting on an exchange and giving out their personal information. Maybe they're just not into technology at all. Well, this is a physical trading card, and you buy a pack, you rip a pack, and you hold it in your hand. You can touch it and feel it. This is huge for people to be able to take their first steps into Bitcoin without having to download a wallet, without having to get technical. There's really nothing technical about our physical paper trading cards. So if we can really take off with this, if we get the support through the Bitcoin community, again, that support doesn't have to be buying a pack of trading cards. Sharing this project with people you know, that's going to do a great deal of good for us to get the word out there about these. We are Bitcoin only. We are not trying to push some big narrative of number go up. We are trying to teach the basics of scarcity, the basics of freedom, the importance of understanding the power a government has over its people, and the power the people truly have over everything, because we are the minority, or the majority. We are that ability to reach freedom or not. If we are willing to give up our freedoms, they will take it. If we're not, they can't. We are the majority. There's no way that they can take our freedom from us if we all stand together and say we value our freedom. And anybody that hasn't opened these cards, there's so much more to these cards than just Bitcoin. Like the Bitcoin Standard and why I fell in love with that book, Saifedean went in for the first 80% of the book and he taught you why Bitcoin is so important. And then the last 20%, he taught you about Bitcoin. Our trading cards are the same way. You're going to get 80% about why Bitcoin is so important, and you're going to get 20% of some Bitcoin basics. But if you don't understand why, you're probably never going to get to that next point, or you'll just buy Bitcoin for the wrong reasons, and good luck hodling it in the times that you need to hodl it. You'll be selling at the bottom and you'll be buying back in at the top.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I would love for you to touch on really quick so people have context before we kind of go towards closing here and wrapping. What the traditional fiat trading card industry, fiat's ruined sports. I could give soliloquies on that. You can give soliloquies on fiat ruining the trading card, just the regular collector, hobby. I would love for you to give context for how many cards are printed in context to what we're talking about with Bitcoin trading cards and why that's so important.
So most, if not all trading card companies, they will come out with a particular set. Like you see behind me, we have all these particular sets that are themed sets. Now, when you come out with a new set, you don't know if that set is going to be a hot seller, something that people really grasp towards and they really like it and they get into it, or if it's just going to be a dud. So they're not going to come out and tell you how many of a particular set they have printed, because if it is a hot seller, they're going to want to print more of those sets. So that is the standard practice in the trading card industry. And you're not going to understand how many of each card is printed. So at a trading card event, for example, I'll look in a case and I'll see a card for, say, $180. I actually bought one. I bought a Bo Jackson rookie card. And I asked the guy, I said, well, how many of these have been printed? He's, no idea. I'm like, what do you mean you have no idea? Well, then how is the price what the price is? He's like, well, I mean, that's just kind of the standard going on out there. There's no place to go. And I mean, there's some basic websites you can go and kind of get an idea, but it's really just a random baseline you're going off of. So there could be a million of these cards just sitting around. That's a scary thing, to not understand that you are holding something you consider a collectible, but you have no idea if it's scarce or not. I don't consider that a collectible. It's like most books. If those books are unlimited, it's not collectible. And I'll keep it, I'll read it. If I really like it, then I'll keep it to maybe read it again. But otherwise, I will gift that book to somebody because it's not collectible. So that is where the industry is really broken, because you have so many people that are able to really scam other people, because finding these numbers, where do you find, I've asked them that, where do you find the numbers of how many of each of these cards are printed? Well, you can go on Reddit and there's people that have opened a lot of packs, and those people will tell you how many are printed. Literally, you'll find someone that has opened a lot of packs and they will tell you their idea of how many of these cards they think exists. That's really, really broken.
Trust me, bro.
Yeah. So that's the standard in the trading card industry. There's many eras of the hobby that have went into mass production, and just like Bitcoin, just like any industry, you'll have your ebbs and flows. You'll have your market peaks. And sadly, when the markets are peaking and the value of these cards are going up, instead of them printing less to continue that value going up, God, the similarities with the fiat system are insane. They will print more and more and more of these cards, and they will crash the market. And then they will start to print less because the market is crashing and the demand isn't there anymore. And then eventually it'll start to climb again because there's less cards out on the market. And they'll do it over and over. So the trading card industry has done the same thing, same volatility in many ways. But the scary thing is, with the volatility, you have nothing to truly compare it to figure out how many of these cards are out there. So last little thing on that, Pokemon has literally printed billions of packs, billions with a B, billions of packs. There are enough cards out there for everyone on Earth, just Pokemon alone, for every single human being on Earth to hold at least, and this is probably underestimating it, 10 to 15 trading cards per person on Earth, Pokemon alone. Start adding in the rest. So is there any real scarcity to trading cards? No. What are you collecting? Pop culture. I really like this character. I really like this player. I'm going to bet on this rookie. That is what is the premise of the trading card industry now, and that's what it's been for a long time. So with what we are producing, you can just take these numbers really quick. You say Topps will come out and they will print 5 to 10 million packs of a set, first run, to see if it sells well, where we come out and print 21,000 packs of a run. And we tell you exactly how many we print, because we will never print that set ever again. There's nothing like it in the entire industry. So when people start to catch on to this, I think we're going to shake a lot of shit up. And to compare it to the NFT community real quick, and the meme coins, I read this thing the other day. I think there's like 1,000 meme coins a day created, 1,000 different meme coins a day created. There are at least tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of different NFTs out there, because it's so easy to create an NFT. You can go on Fiverr or Upwork or wherever. They use AI. They generate you 10,000 monkey JPEGs with something a little bit different. They put it on the market. The only reason you're buying those is because they've marketed it to you in a really good way, and you're buying in. But you are buying into a completely broken system. Some of the art, when it's original, I gotta say, there's some really cool art out there, but you're just owning a JPEG. And can you really validate the scarcity? People will say yes, but with tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of these NFT projects out there, it's broken and it's only going to go so far. And you look at these meme coins and you look at these NFT projects with market caps of billions and billions of dollars. And then you look at Bitcoin trading cards with as scarce as we are compared to any of that. We triumph and completely crush their numbers in every single way. And we are literally a blip on the page compared to anything they're doing. And Bitcoin will be the biggest and the baddest. It already is. It will be everything in this world. There's only one Bitcoin trading cards, not financial advice. Again, stack sats before packs. But if you really want to hold on to something really special to commemorate your time in Bitcoin and hold a collectible that's something physical in Bitcoin, not just Bitcoin trading cards, but Bitcoin art and Bitcoin collectibles in general. As long as you can verify the scarcity, it's an amazing thing to be able to hodl along with your sats and play with your Bitcoin.
I love the little thing at the end. Play with your Bitcoins. Donald Trump. Good old Trump. Boy, oh boy. So funny. I absolutely love that. And it makes me think it's such a great example. And it's kind of in the theme of what we've been touching on this entire time of how to use Bitcoin, how to use the Lightning Network, how to use layer 1, layer 2, how to educate yourself, how to educate others on Bitcoin, this ground up adoption. It makes me think of, like you said, this little blip. Bitcoin trading cards, a little blip in the trading card industry. And it's just like Bitcoin, it was a $1 billion asset, and then it was $1 trillion, now it's $2 trillion. And it's this little blip, still a little nascent asset in the sea of 900 trillion or a quadrillion assets out there in the world. And it's the same concept, and it's teaching Bitcoin as people are going, whether they know it or not. It's teaching the fundamentals of scarcity, how to use a network, kind of David versus Goliath. Like you have truth on your side and you're promoting the right thing for the right reason. And it might, you're going to take your lumps. It might take a while, but eventually you get there if you stick with it and you don't quit. Just truly remarkable, Alladan. It really is. As we close here, what are some key points maybe that we didn't touch on that you want to talk about, or also where can people find you, the card series 3 is coming out, and find all the links and everything that they need to go check this out, and what the team's working on?
Yeah, mainly on X, BTC_cards on X. That's where a lot of our content goes. Any insight, if you really want to get into the cards and check out what we're doing, the Telegram group is great. Not because we're going to come out personally and fill you with a bunch of knowledge on the cards, but because you're going to be able to hear from a community of people, non-bias. Hearing it from the company is one thing. Hearing it from collectors and people that truly love this project, you're going to get the best example, the best idea. Ask them the questions, and they're there to help. The community is incredible. So I highly recommend the Telegram group. It's Bitcoin Trading Cards on Telegram, but you can find it through our X link. We're on Instagram, Facebook. We are not the best at social media because our team is pretty based and none of us really like social media. So we're trying to figure it out. Bear with us, but we really don't shill these cards. We just put out some really cool content with it, give you guys ideas of what we're doing. Website is BTC-cards. If you just type in Bitcoin trading cards, we're at the top of all the different search engines. This is the main. For me, it's Bitcoin Life Raft on Twitter. I am not very active. Again, I'd rather spend that time with my family. I know I need to figure it out and get on there and be more active, but I've got a wife and 3 kids, and I put a lot of time into this project. So any extra time I get that I can spend with my family is huge to me. And I want this project to be successful. I'd love for this to help really make some huge waves out there and promote adoption as much as possible. But at the end of the day, this is advice to everybody. It's your family. Your family is your citadel. If you don't have one yet, kids are the most amazing thing ever. We all need Bitcoiners, people with hearts, people with morals and values. You need to have kids. We need more people like that in the world. And I know it's scary. I've been scared shitless to raise my children in this world, but it is the good people that need to have children that is going to help spread that. Otherwise, it will be the shitheads that have the children, and that will be what spreads. So take that time, turn off the phones, turn off the computers as much as you can, and really try to spend that time with your friends and family. Give your kids the best possible chance, and just love them.
I love that. And Aladdin's a little bit too modest at times. Go check the website out. The first series sold out in a couple of months. The second series sold out in a couple of weeks. So definitely don't, if you're into that at all, if you're into the cards, want to see some education and some of the really the prettiest artwork you're going to find in Bitcoin, but probably a lot of places in general, check it out. Check out the website. Check out the Series 3 coming out. And can't guarantee it's going to last super long. It could be a few months, could be a few weeks, could be a few days. We have no idea. And a lot of people are waiting for it. That's all we can say. So Mr. Alladan Flinn, thank you so much for being a playable character. We need many more of them in society. I appreciate you.
Hey, thank you, brother. It's much needed. We finally got it done. It only took about 1.5 years. So
if you like this episode of Alladan Flinn, the founder of Bitcoin Trading Cards, and how he is scaling Bitcoin education through the most collectible, valuable trading cards on the planet, then you're going to love the one we just did with Zuby on how Bitcoin is changing the world through the societal chaos and breakdown we're seeing all over the world. Go check that out here. Or you might love the one we just did with Leon Vankum, where we talk about Bitcoin disrupting and taking over the real estate market. You're not going to want to miss these. Go check these out here or here. Come on. You know you want to. We'll see you inside.